तारिणी श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 सर्वशास्त्रार्थ पीयूष सर्ववेदैक सत्फल सर्वसिद्धांत रत्नाख्य सर्वलोकैक त्रिप्रद सर्वभागवत प्राण श्रीमद्भागवत प्रभो कलिध्वांतोदितादित्य श्री कृष्ण परिवर्तित परमानंद पाठाय प्रेमवश्यक्षराय ते सर्वदा सर्वसेव्याय श्री कृष्णाय नमस्तु मे मदेक बंधो मत्संगिन मद्गुरो मन्महाधन मन्निस्तारक मद्भाग्य मदानंद नमस्तुते असाधु साधुतादाय नतनी चोच्चताकर आनंद चकदाचिन्मां प्रेमणा हृत्कंठयोस्फुर ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय 46 प्राधान्यतो यान् ऋष आमनन्ति लीलावतारान् पुरुषस्य भूम्ना आपीयतां कर्ण कषाय शोषान् अनुक्रमिष्येत इमान् सुपेशान्. O Narada, now I shall state one after another the transcendental incarnations of the Lord, known as Leela avatars, hearing after activities, soundtracks, all foul matter accumulated in the ear. These pastimes are pleasing to hear and are to be relished. Therefore, they are in my heart. Shuddha Sattva Avataran Vaktumaha Pradhanyate. He speaks the current verse because he is going to speak about the Shuddha Sattva incarnations, the incarnations who are in pure goodness. Supeshan, Sundaran, these incarnations are very beautiful. Kim Bahuna, what is the use of speaking so much? एतदर्थमेव अस्य महापुराणस्य आविर्भाव इति भवता अनुदित प्रायं यशो भगवतो मलमित्यादौ समाधिनानुस्मरत विचेष्टितम् इत्यादौ च वर्णितम्. This very Mahapurana has appeared for this very purpose, to describe the different incarnations of the Lord properly, the different pastimes of the Lord properly. Sa cha bhagavato leela dvividha, and that pastime of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is of two types. Srishtyadi Rupa, Leelavatara, Vinoda Rupasha. The first consists of the pastimes of creation, maintenance, annihilation, etc. The second, these are the sportive pastimes of the incarnations of the Lord. Tayo uttaratu prashasta tara ityashenaha pradhanyato yan rishayati. Between these two, the second ones are better than the first one. यद्यपि पूर्वम आद्योवतार पुरुष परस्य इत्यादि ग्रंथेन पुरुषम कालादित शक्तिं मनादित तत्कार्यं ब्रह्मादितं गुणावतारान् दक्षादित विभूतिश्चोक्तवान् अस्मि. तेन च सृष्ट्यादि लीला तथापि यान् हे ऋषे पुरुषस्य भूम्नः लीलावतारान् प्राधान्येन आवनन्ति तानेव इमान् मम हृदय अधिरूढा. So even though I have spoken to you about the first incarnation, the Purusha, and I stated that the conditioned souls, time, and so on are his energies, mind, etc., are his effects. Brahma and others are his gunavataras. There is a type of mistake here. Tam gunavataram, tad gunavataram. Dakshadita vibhuti. Daksha and the others are his opulences, vibhutis, slightly empowered by him. I've already described the pastime beginning with creation performed by him. Still, O sage, the Leela avatars performed by the Supreme Person, they have been primarily described in the Vedic scriptures. And they are the ones that are well situated in my heart. Karnak Kashaya Shoshanta Ditara Shravana Ragahatri. And they destroy the attraction to hearing about anything else. So in this way, they purify the contamination of the ear. Kimcha, moreover, Supeshan, Parama Manoharan. They are supremely charming. Anukramashyeta anukramanam samyak piyatam. I will set it out and I will present them one after another. Please drink it thoroughly. Please drink it fully. Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur notes, Maya Shakti Pradhanyena Purushavatara Muktva Chitshaktimayan Leelavataran Varaha Yagyadin Vaktumaha. In this way, he has described the Purushavatara who is primarily associated with his Maya potency. Now, in order to describe the Leela avatars, such as Varaha Yagya, who are primarily associated with the Lord's spiritual potencies. They are fully associated with the spiritual potencies, but since they are appearing in this world, there is some dealing with the material potency also. Pradhanyata amananti iti upasyatpena amshena iti vyanjayati. So they are meant to be worshipped. As it was said in the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam 1.5.8, one cannot be fully satisfied by hearing unless and until one is given a chance to hear of the transcendental activities of the Lord. So Brahmaji is also trying in this verse to stress the importance of narrating the transcendental pastimes of the Lord as he comes and manifests himself here on the surface of the material planets. Every living entity has a tendency to hear pleasing messages. And as such, almost every one of us is inclined to hear news and talk broadcast by the radio stations. But the difficulty is that no one is satisfied at heart from hearing all those messages. The cause of such dissatisfaction is the incompatibility of the message with the innermost stratum of the living soul. This transcendental literature is especially prepared by Srila Vyasadeva to give the utmost satisfaction to the people in general by narration of the activities of the Lord as instructed by Sri Narada Muni to Srila Vyasadeva. Such activities of the Lord are principally of two varieties. One concerns the mundane manifestation of the material creative force, and the other deals with his pastimes in the form of different incarnations. In terms of the time and place, there are innumerable incarnations of the Lord like the waves of the river flowing constantly in and out. Less intelligent persons take more interest in the creative forces of the Lord in the material world, and being disconnected from their relationship with the Lord, they put forward many theories of the creation in the name of scientific research. The devotees of the Lord, however, know well how the creative forces work concurrently, simultaneously, by the action and reaction of the material energy of the Lord. Therefore, they take more interest in the transcendental activities of the Lord as he incarnates himself on the surface of the material world. Srimad Bhagavatam is a history of such activities of the Lord. People who take interest in hearing Srimad Bhagavatam clear their hearts of accumulated mundane filth. There are 1,001 trash literatures on the market, but one who has taken interest in the Srimad Bhagavatam loses all interest in such filthy literatures. Sri Brahmaji is thus attempting to narrate the principal incarnations of the Lord so that they may be drunk by Narada as transcendental nectar. Chapter 7. Scheduled incarnations with specific functions. Text 1. Brahmavacha. Yatrodhyatah kshiti talodharanaya bibhran Traudim tanum sakala yajyamayim anantah antar maharnava upagatamadi daityam tam damstrayadrim iva vajradharo dadhara. Vajradharo dadhara. Lord Brahma said, when the unlimitedly powerful Lord assumed the form of a boar as a pastime, just to lift the planet Earth, which was drowned in the great ocean of the universe called the Garbhodhaka, the first demon, Hiranyaksha, appeared, and the Lord pierced him with his tusk. सप्तमे भगवल्लीलावतारा ब्रह्मणोदिता नारदाय तु तत्कर्म प्रयोजन गुणैः सह. In the seventh chapter, Lord Brahma speaks about the pastime incarnations of the Supreme Personality of Godhead to Narada, along with a brief description of those activities, his purposes in executing those activities, and his attributes. करेण कर्णमूले हन् इति वक्ष्यमाणात् प्रथमं करेण अहन् पश्चात् दंष्ट्रया च ददार इति ज्ञेयम्. In the third canto, we will come across a more detailed description of Varaha pastime. And there we will read that Lord Varaha killed Hiranyaksha by slapping him with his hand. So from this we understand, if you synthesize that description along with the current verse, we understand that first of all, he slapped him with his hand. And then afterwards, he pierced him with his tusk. In that way, Hiranyaksha died. Avatara saptamesmin prodadya sahakarmabhihi vibhutayascha bhaktascha nirupyante samasataha. In this seventh chapter, Varaha and other incarnations are described along with their activities, opulences, and devotees in brief. Since the beginning of creation, the demons and the demigods, or the Vaishnavas, are always the two classes of living beings to dominate the planets of the universes. Lord Brahma is the first demigod, and Hiranyaksha is the first demon in this universe. Adi Daitya. I think that expression comes here. Yes, it comes here. It comes here. Yes, Adi Daitya. Only under certain conditions do the planets float as weightless balls in the air. And as soon as these conditions are disturbed, the planets may fall down into the Garbhodhaka ocean, which covers half the universe. The other half is the spherical dome within which the innumerable planetary systems exist. The floating of the planets in the weightless air is due to the inner constitution of the globes, and the modernized drilling of the earth to exploit oil from within is a sort of disturbance by the modern demons and can result in a greatly harmful reaction to the floating condition of the earth. A similar disturbance was created formerly by the demons headed by Hiranyaksha, the great exploiter of the gold rush, and the earth was detached from its weightless kind and fell down into the Garbhodhaka ocean. The Lord, as maintainer of the whole creation of the material world, therefore assumed the gigantic form of a boar with a proportionate snout and picked up the earth from within the water of Garbhodhaka. Sri Jayadev Goswami, the great Vaishnava poet, sang as follows: Vasati dashana shikhare dharani dava lagna shashini kalanka kalevani magna keshava dhrita sukara rupa jaya jagadisha hare. O Keshava, O Supreme Lord, who have assumed the form of a boar, O Lord, the planet Earth rested on your tusk, and it appeared like the moon engraved with spots. Such is the symptom of an incarnation of the Lord. The incarnation of the Lord is not the concocted idea of fanciful men who create an incarnation out of imagination. The incarnation of the Lord appears under certain extraordinary circumstances like the above mentioned occasion, and the incarnation performs a task which is not even imaginable by the tiny brain of mankind. The modern creators of the many cheap incarnations may take note of the factual incarnation of God as the gigantic boar with a suitable snout to carry the planet Earth. When the Lord appeared in order to pick up the earth, the demon of the name Hiranyaksha tried to create a disturbance in the methodical functions of the Lord. And therefore he was killed by being pierced by the Lord's tusk. According to Srila Jiva Goswami, the demon Hiranyaksha was killed by the hand of the Lord. Therefore, his version is that after being killed by the hand of the Lord, the demon was pierced by the tusk. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur confirms this version. You're so angry that you would have killed him and then pierced him. It's two. Jato ruche rajana yat suyaman suyagya akuti sunaramaranath dakshinayam lokatrayasya mahati maharadyadatim swayam bhuvena manuna harirityanukta. Prajapati Ruchi begot Suyagya in the womb of his wife Akuti, and then Suyagya begot the demigods headed by Suyama. These are also known as Suyama. In the womb of his wife Dakshina, Suyagya as the Indradeva diminished very great miseries in the three planetary systems, upper, lower, and intermediate. And because he so diminished the miseries of the universe, he was later called Hari by the great father of mankind, namely Swayambhuva Manu. There's a question here. Haribol, why I'm not able to hear? Why I'm not able to hear? Can anyone else hear?
Oh. Prabhu is mute, so I think he can't speak. Haribol.
Nothing. Cannot hear anything. He is also known as Yagya. This Lord Vishnu, who is referred to here as Suyagya, is also known as Yagya. Yagyavatara known as Yagya. Manu was the maternal grandfather of this Lord Yagya. Anena Devotpadanam Lokatrayarthi Haranam cha tasya karma darshitam. This verse points out that producing these devas and removing the distresses of the three worlds was his activity. Evam sarvatra avataraha tat karma cha gyeyam. In that way, in all of these descriptions that will follow, you will find a mention about that particular incarnation as well as his activity. Hari literally means one who takes away distress. So therefore, he was given this name. Ishopanishad was revealed by Swayambhuva Manu when he was praying to this Suyagya. 8th canto, we will see that. In order to guard against the invention of unauthorized incarnations of God by the fanciful, less intelligent persons, the name of the father of the bona fide incarnation is also mentioned in the authorized revealed scriptures. No one, therefore, can be accepted as an incarnation of the Lord if his father's name, as well as the name of the village or place in which he appears, is not mentioned by the authorized scriptures. In the Bhagavata Purana, the name of the Kalki incarnation, which is to take place in almost 400,000 years, is mentioned along with the name of his father and the name of the village in which he will appear. A sane man, therefore, does not accept any cheap edition of an incarnation without reference to the authorized scriptures. Text 3. Jajje chakardama grihe dvijadeva hutyam स्त्रीभिः समं नवभिरात्मगतिं स्वमात्रे ऊचे ययात्मशमलं गुणसङ्गपङ्कम् अस्मिन् विधूय कपिलस्य गतिं प्रपेदे. Along with 9 women, along with 9 sisters, the Lord then appeared as the Kapila incarnation, being the son of the Prajapati Brahmana Kardama and his wife Devahuti. He spoke to his mother about self-realization, by which in that very lifetime she became fully cleansed of the mud of the material modes and thereby achieved liberation, the path of Kapila. Atmagatim Brahmavidyam Uktavan. So he spoke about spiritual realization. Asminnaiva Janmani. In this very life, in that very life, she attained the position of Lord Kapila, liberation. Atmanaha Bhagavad Rupasya Gatim Jnanam Uttavan. He spoke about knowledge concerning himself. That means the forms of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Kapilasya Gatim Tadiya Nitya Avasam Vaikunthamsya Vishesham. Kapilasya Gatim, the liberated state of Lord Kapila, refers to his eternal abode, which is a specific part of Vaikuntha. Kapilasya Gatim, Tripad Vibhutistham, Kapila Vaikuntham. She attained Kapila Vaikuntha, which is a part of the triquadrantal manifestation of this, the Lord's opulence. Means Kapila Vaikuntha in the spiritual sky. The instructions of Lord Kapila to his mother Devahuti are fully described in the 3rd canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, chapters 25 to 32. And anyone who follows the instructions can achieve the same liberation obtained by Devahuti. The Lord spoke the Bhagavad Gita, and thereby Arjuna achieved self-realization. And even today, anyone who follows the path of Arjuna can also attain the same benefit as Sri Arjuna. The scriptures are meant for this purpose. Foolish, unintelligent persons make their own interpretations by imagination and thus mislead their followers, causing them to remain in the dungeon of material existence. However, simply by following the instructions imparted by Lord Krishna or Lord Kapila, one can obtain the highest benefit even today. The word Atmagatim is significant in the sense of perfect knowledge of the Supreme. One should not be satisfied simply by knowing the qualitative equality of the Lord and the living being. One should know the Lord as much as can be known by our limited knowledge. It is impossible for the Lord to be known perfectly as he is, even by such liberated persons as Shiva or Brahma. So what to speak of other demigods or men in this world? Still, by following the principles of the great devotees and the instructions available in the scriptures, one can know to a considerable extent the features of the Lord. His Lordship Kapila, the incarnation of the Lord, instructed his mother fully about the personal form of the Lord, and thereby she realized the personal form of the Lord and was able to achieve a place in the Vaikuntha Loka where Lord Kapila predominates. Every incarnation of the Lord has its own abode in the spiritual sky. Therefore, Lord Kapila also has a separate Vaikuntha planet. The spiritual sky is not void. There are innumerable Vaikuntha planets, and in each of them, the Lord predominates by one of his innumerable expansions. And the pure devotees who are there also live in the same style as the Lord and his eternal associates. When the Lord descends personally or by his personal plenary expansions. Such incarnations are called Amsha, Kala, Guna, Yuga, and Manvantara incarnations. And when the Lord's associates descend by the order of the Lord, such incarnations are called Shaktyavesha incarnations. But in all cases, all the incarnations are supported by the invulnerable statements of the authorized scriptures and not by any imagination of some self-interested propagandist. Such incarnations of the Lord in any of the above categories always declare the Supreme Personality of Godhead to be the ultimate truth. The impersonal conception of the Supreme Truth is just a process of negation of the form of the Lord from the mundane conception of the Supreme Truth. The living entities, by their very constitution, are spiritually as good as the Lord. And the only difference between them is that the Lord is always supreme and pure, without contamination by the modes of material nature, whereas the living entities are apt to be contaminated by association with the material modes of goodness, passion, and ignorance. This contamination by the material modes can be washed off completely by knowledge, renunciation, and devotional service. Devotional service to the Lord is the ultimate issue, and therefore those who are directly engaged in the devotional service of the Lord not only acquire the necessary knowledge in spiritual science, but also attain detachment from material connection and are thus promoted to the kingdom of God by complete liberation, as stated in the Bhagavad Gita 14.26. मां च यो व्यभिचारेण भक्ति योगेन सेवते सगुणान् समतीत्यैतान् brahmabhuyaya kalpate. Even in the non-liberated stage, the living entity can be directly engaged in the transcendental loving service of the personality of God and Lord Krishna, or his plenary expansions like Rama and Narasimha. Thus, in proportion to the improvement of such transcendental devotional service, the devotee makes definite progress towards Brahmagatim or Atmagatim and ultimately attains Kapilasya Gati, or the abode of the Lord, without difficulty. The antiseptic potency of devotion service to the Lord is so great that it can neutralize the material infection even in the present life of a devotee. A devotee does not need to wait for his next birth for complete liberation. So this, if you examine Lord Kapila's teachings, the sort of devotion service that he describes, this is at least Pradhanibhuta Bhakti, leading to Kevala Bhakti. We will see that in the third canto. Text 4. Patrerapathyamapikankshata ahatushto datto mayahmiti yad bhagavan sadatta yad pada pankaja paraga pavitra deha yogardhima purubhayin yaduhai hayadya. The great sage Atri prayed for offspring, and the Lord, being satisfied with him, promised to incarnate as Atri's son, Dattatreya, Datta, the son of Atri. And by the grace of the lotus feet of the Lord, many Yadus, Haihayas, etc., became so purified that they obtained both material and spiritual blessings. Dattatreya Avatar Maha. This is the incarnation of Dattatreya. Datta means given. Mayaham eva datta. I give myself to you. I have given myself to you. Therefore, Sanamna Datto Jata. Therefore, he was born with the name Datta. And he was born to Atri. Atri's son is Atreya. Dattatreya means Datta, the son of Atri. So Bhaktebhyo Yogeshwarya Danam Tacharitam Cha Darshayati. So to his devotees, he bestowed yogic opulences. And his activities are also referred to here. Yasya pada pankajayoh paragastena pavitra deha yeshante. their bodies became purified by the dust of his lotus feet. Ubhayim Aihika Amushmikim Mukti Mukti Rupamba. So they attained happiness pertaining to this life and in the next life. They attained happiness pertaining to material enjoyment and spiritual liberation. Madhvacharya reads Amayim instead of Ubhayim, which indicates that they became Vaishnavas. They attained blessings through which they became predominated by Lord Vishnu. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur gives some additional information. Tesham cha madhye haihayam tu prapta yogarthimapi mahad aparadhata eva heto upyan parashuramaha jaghana iti yeyam. Amongst these devotees of Lord Dattatreya, Haihaya had attained mystic opulence. Despite that, because of his committing offenses to a great soul, Sri Parashurama became angry with him. He killed him. Transcendental relations between the personality of Godhead and the living entities are eternally established in 5 different affectionate humors, which are known as Shanta, Dasya, Sakhya, Vatsalya, and Madhurya. The sage Atri was related with the Lord in the affectionate Vatsalya humor, and therefore, as a result of his devotional perfection, he was inclined to have the personality of Godhead as his son. The Lord accepted his prayer, and he gave himself as a son of Atri. Such a relation of sonhood between the Lord and his pure devotees can be cited in many instances. And because the Lord is unlimited, he has an unlimited number of father devotees. Actually, the Lord is the father of all living entities, but out of transcendental affection and love between the Lord and his devotees, the Lord takes more pleasure in becoming the son of a devotee than in becoming one's father. The father actually serves the son, whereas the son only demands all sorts of services from the father. Therefore, a pure devotee who is always inclined to serve the Lord, he wants him as the son, not as the father. The Lord also accepts such service from the devotee, and thus the devotee becomes more than the Lord. Oh, just 1 minute. The impulseless desire to become one with the Supreme, but the devotee becomes more than the Lord, surpassing the desire of the greatest monist. Parents and other relatives of the Lord achieve all mystic opulences automatically because of their intimate relationship with the Lord. Such opulences include all details of material enjoyment, salvation, and mystic powers. Therefore, the devotee of the Lord does not seek them separately, wasting his valuable time and life. The valuable time of one's life must therefore be fully engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. Then other desirable achievements are automatically gained. But even after obtaining such achievements, one should be on guard against the pitfall of offenses at the feet of the devotees. The vivid example is Haihaya, who achieved all such perfection in devotion service, but because of his offense at the feet of a devotee, was killed by Lord Parashuram. The Lord became the son of the great sage Atri and became known as Dattatreya. It's by Tam tapo vividhalok srikshayami adau sanat swatapasah sachatusano bhut prakal prasamprava vinashtamihatma tattvam samyak jagada munayo yad achakshatat man. To create different planetary systems, I had to undergo austerities and penance, and the Lord, thus being pleased with me, incarnated as the 4 Sanas, Sanaka, Sanandana, Sanatana, and Sanat Kumara. In the previous creation, the spiritual truth was devastated, but the 4 Sanas explained it so nicely that the truth at once became clearly perceived by the sages. Kumara Avataramaha. This is the incarnation of the Kumaras. I thought I saw some question here in the chat box. How they decided the appearance disappearance is from the Panchika. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur gave an almanac calendar, Panchika Tithi. So based on that, Mother Devahuti attained liberation. Is she not Nityasiddha like Mother Yashoda? No, no. What offense did Hai commit? We will come across that when we study Parashurama pastime in detail. 8th canto. He's Kartavirya Arjuna. As far as I understand, he's Kartavirya Arjuna. Kumara Avatar Maha. This is the incarnation of the four Kumaras. Ne maya ado yat tapastaptam tasmat swatapasaha mat tapasaha hetoho taharihi chatussanaha abhut. I had engaged in certain austerities, and because of that, the Lord, he appeared in the form of the four Kumaras. Sanat Kumara, Sanakaha, Sanandanaha, Sanatanaha, iti Chatvaraha, Sanashabda Namni Yasya Saha. They are called the four Sanas because their names contain Sana, Sanaka, Sanandana, Sanatana, Sanat Kumara. स च पूर्वकल्पस्य संप्लवे प्रलये विनष्टमुच्छिन्न संप्रदायम् आत्मतत्त्वम् इह अस्मिन् कल्पे सम्यक् जगाद उक्तवान्. In the previous kalpa, at the time of pralaya, Vedic knowledge, Vedic spiritual knowledge, knowledge of the self, which had come down in disciplic succession, was broken. In this kalpa, they completely respoke it. They explained it properly. Samyak. Samyak tvam darshayati. Yad gaditamatrameva munaya atmana atmani manasi achakshata sakshata pasya. They explained it so nicely that the truth at once became clearly perceived by the sages. So that was Sanat. Sanat Sanatana Tamaha. In Vishnu Sahasranama it comes. These are all different names of Lord Vishnu. Sanat, Sanatana, Sanatana Tama. The Vishnu Sahasranama prayers mention the Lord's names as Sanat and Sanatana Tama. This Sanatana Tama is a very interesting expression. Sanatana means eternal. Sanatana Tara means more eternal. Sanatana Tama means most eternal. What does it mean, most eternal? So that Prabhupada explains. The Lord and the living entities are both qualitatively Sanatana or eternal. But the Lord is Sanatana Tama, or eternal in the superlative degree, most eternal. The living entities are positively Sanatana. There is positive degree, comparative degree, superlative degree. So the living entities are positively Sanatana, but not superlatively, because the living entities are apt to fall to the atmosphere of non-eternity. Therefore, the living entities are quantitatively different from the superlative Sanatana, the Lord. If we were to say that the Jivatmas are eternal, Sanatana, then the liberated Jivatmas are Sanatana Tara. They are more eternal. But the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vishnu is Sanatana Tama, most eternal. Most eternal meaning that he can never ever become bound up by material existence. The word son is also used in the sense of charity. Therefore, when everything is given up in charity unto the Lord reciprocates by giving himself unto the devotee. This is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 4.11. Ye yatha ma prapadyante tam sathaiva bhajamiham. Brahmaji wanted to create the whole cosmic situation as it was in the previous millennium. And because in the last devastation, knowledge of the absolute truth was altogether erased from the universe, he desired that the same knowledge be renovated. Otherwise, there would be no meaning in the creation. In every millennium of creation, transcendental knowledge is a prime necessity if the ever-conditioned souls are to be given a chance for liberation. This mission of Brahmaji was fulfilled by the grace of the Lord when the four sons, namely Sanaka, Sanandana, Sanatana, and Sanat Kumara, appeared as his four sons. These four sons were incarnations of the knowledge of the Supreme Lord, and as such, they explained transcendental knowledge so explicitly that all the sages could at once assimilate this knowledge without the least difficulty. By following in the footsteps of the four Kumaras, one can at once see the Supreme Personality of Godhead within oneself. Nimbarkacharya appears in this Kumara Sampradaya. His philosophy is known as Swabhavika Dvaitadvaitavada. Our philosophy, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says, is Achintya Dvaitadvaita. Bheda is the same as Dvaita. Abheda is the same as Advaita. Nimbarkacharya has written a commentary on the Vedanta Sutra. Vedanta Parijata Saurabha. Text 6. Right. Something is there in the chat box. Is there any particular reason he did not suggest to celebrate appearance or disappearance of Kurma, Matsya, etc.? Maybe those tithis are not there or they are not so prominent. Laghu Bhagavatamrita talks about which incarnations are more prominent, which incarnations are less prominent. So if you consult that, you'll have an idea. Text 6. Dharmasya dakshadukitarya janishtamurtyam narayano nara iti swatapah prabhavah drishtvatmano bhagavato niyamalopam devyastvananga pratana ghatitum nasheku. To exhibit his personal way of austerity and penance, he appeared in twin forms as Narayana and Nara in the womb of Murti, the wife of Dharma and the daughter of Daksha. Celestial beauties, the companions of Cupid, went to try to break his vows, but they were unsuccessful, for they saw that many beauties like them were emanating from him, the personality of Godhead. Here's some interesting information from Madhvacharya, quoting a scripture known as Shadgunya. Naro Narayanaschaiva Harih Krishnasthathaiva cha Chatvaro Dharmattanaya Harireva Trayo Mataha Ananto Naranama Naranamavan Visheshena Swayam Vishnu Nivasatyambujekshanaha. Dharma actually had four sons: Nara, Narayana, Hari, Krishna. Lord Hari himself appeared in the forms of Narayana, Hari, and Krishna. Ananta is Nara. And in that Nara incarnation, the Supreme Lord Vishnu himself resides. The lotus-eyed Supreme Lord Vishnu specifically resides. Tasmat Chaturdha Dharmasya Jato Vishnu Ritiritaha. Therefore, it is said that Lord Vishnu appeared in 4 forms to dharma. Narayana avataramaha dharmasya patnyam dakshadhintari murti sangyayam Narayana Naraha iti murti dvayena jataha atam bhutaha saha swaha sadharanaha tapah. He appeared by the power of his unique austerities. This particular pastime that is described here about the celestial beauties being unable to attract Naranarayana will be described in the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. The Lord being the source of everything that be, is the origin of all austerities and penances also. Great vows of austerity are undertaken by sages to achieve success in self-realization. Human life is meant for such rigid tapasya with the great vow of celibacy or brahmacharya. In the rigid life of tapasya, there is no place for association of women. Of course, it is understood that one should avoid homosexuality and other forms of sexual activity also. In Rajoguna, men and women are attracted to each other. In Tamoguna, they are attracted in there are lower forms of attraction. So one should give up tamasic sexual activity and rajasic sexual activity in the form of association with women. Specifically in tapasya, there's no place for sexual activity. And because human life is meant for tapasya or self-realization, factual human civilization is conceived by the system of Sanatana Dharma, or the school of 4 castes and 4 orders of life, prescribes rigid dissociation from women in 3 stages of life. In the order of gradual cultural development, one's life may be divided into 4 divisions: celibacy, household life, retirement, and renunciation. During the first stage of life, up to 25 years of age, a man may be trained as a brahmachari under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master, just to understand that woman is the real binding force in material existence. If one wants to get freedom from the material bondage of conditional life, he must get free from the attraction for the form of woman. Form of woman includes form, sound, taste, touch, everything. Woman or the fair sex is the enchanting principle for the living entities, and the male form, especially in the human being, is meant for self-realization. The whole world is moving under the spell of womanly attraction. And as soon as a man becomes united with a woman, he at once becomes a victim of material bondage under a tight knot. This is all 5th canto. The desires for lording it over the material world under the intoxication of a false sense of lordship specifically begin just after the man's unification with a woman. The desires for acquiring a house, possessing land, having children, and becoming prominent in society, the affection for community and the place of birth, and the hankering for wealth, which are all like phantasmagorias or illusory dreams, encumber a human being, and is thus impeded in his progress towards self-realization, the real aim of life. A brahmachari, or a boy from the age of 5 years, especially from the higher castes, namely from scholarly parents, the Brahmanas, administrative parents, Kshatriyas, or mercantile or productive parents, Vaishyas, is trained until 25 years of age under the care of a bona fide guru or teacher and under strict observance of discipline. He comes to understand the values of life, along with taking specific training for a livelihood. The brahmachari is then allowed to go home and enter household life and get married to a suitable woman. But there are many brahmacharis who do not go home to become householders, but continue the life of Naishtika brahmacharis without any connection with a woman. They accept the order of sannyas or the renounced order of life, knowing well that combination with a woman is an unnecessary burden that checks self-realization. Since sex desire is very strong at a certain stage of life, the guru may allow the brahmachari to marry. The idea is that without external propaganda, just by the force of one's own previous karma, at a certain stage of life, in the young stage of life, sex desire is very strong. Therefore, the guru may allow the brahmachari to marry at that stage. This license is given to a brahmachari who is unable to continue the way of Naishtika brahmacharya, and such discriminations are possible for the bona fide guru. A program of so-called family planning is needed. That means one who becomes a householder, he should have a plan to have restricted family life, but not in a sinful manner. Today's world, householders, they try to have less children, but with great artificial endeavor through contraceptive arrangements or through birth control operation and so on. Prabhupada states repeatedly that these are all sinful. One should not, one should just avoid sexual activity voluntarily, not use technology for this. A householder who associates with a woman under scriptural restrictions after a thorough training in brahmacharya cannot be a householder like the cats and dogs. Such a householder, after 50 years of age, would retire from the association of women as a vanaprastha to be trained to live alone without the association of a woman. When the practice is complete, the same retired householder becomes a sannyasi, strictly separate from women, even from his married wife. From a study of the whole scheme of disassociation from women, it appears that a woman is a stumbling block for self-realization. And the Lord appeared as Narayana to teach the principle of womanly dissociation with a vow in life. I've been told that in one of the Puranas it is described that Narada Muni was once wandering over the earth and he saw everyone obsessed with the woman as Grihamedis. So he went to complain to Lord Narayan about the situation. So when he went to see the Lord was lying on Anantashesh and Lakshmi Devi was massaging his feet. So Narada Muni simply just started screaming. This is the whole problem. You yourself are attached to your wife. Because you're attached to your wife, see, everyone is attached to his wife. Nobody is going to make progress towards renunciation. They're all simply, whole life, they just want to be with women. That's all. So Lord Narayana, he said, oh, if that is the case, I will take a special incarnation and Lakshmi will not assist me in this incarnation. I'll have no relationship with her. So then Narada Muni asked him, so how will you incarnate? Then he said, I will come in the form of Narayana Rishi. Narayana, we will demonstrate how to perform austerities. And then Lakshmi Devi said, no, but I need to serve you. Then he said, okay, so you can become a tree to shelter us from the heat. So she became the Badari tree, a berry tree, Badari Narayan. The demigods, being envious of the austere life of the rigid brahmacharis, will try to cause them to break their vows by dispatching soldiers of Cupid. But in the case of the Lord, it became an unsuccessful attempt when the celestial beauties saw that the Lord can produce innumerable such beauties by his mystic internal potency, and that there was consequently no need to be attracted by others externally. There is a common proverb that a confectioner is never attracted by sweetmeats. Confectioner means a person who makes and sells sweets. Sweetmeats are tiny little sweets. The confectioner who is always manufacturing sweetmeats has very little desire to eat them. Similarly, the Lord, by his pleasure potencies, can produce innumerable spiritual beauties and not be the least attracted by the false beauties of material creation. One who does not know alleges foolishly that Lord Krishna enjoyed women in his Rasa Leela in Vrindavan, or with the 16,000 married wives at Dwaraka. There's something in the chat box. What is that age when one is more inclined to sexual life? Balastavat Kridasakta, Tarunastavat Taruni Rakta. Then one is a Taruna. This is after puberty. Is that truth only for what? Is that truth only for begetting children? One should have sex with women. Is it the truth that one should have sex with women only for begetting children? If one wants to attain liberation from material existence, or if he wants to have a higher destination in his next life, then he has to observe these restrictions. If so, how many are able to follow that right now in our movement? I don't know. I do not know. But those who follow will be benefited. Those who don't follow will not be benefited. That's all. We don't do all these statistical calculations. You go to a hospital, you meet a doctor. The doctor tells you what to do. You don't start doing an analysis of how many patients are following this, how many patients are not following this. You follow the doctor will tell you, if you follow this, then this such and such a symptom will be there. Your health will be improved in such and such a manner. And so you follow it, you come back, it will be as said. If it is not so, then that means the doctor did not detect some other issue. There might be some other issue in your body. Then they put through further tests and they ask superior doctors for their opinion. This is what happens in the real world. So you don't start looking at who else is following, who else is not following. Those who don't follow go to hell only, that's all. What can be done about it? Those who follow partially will be partially benefited. Those who don't follow will not be benefited. Those who follow will be benefited. What is the suggestion for homosexual people to get rid of that? Homosexuality is due to tamoguna. Heterosexuality is due to rajoguna. Asexuality is due to sattvaguna. Celibacy is sattvic. What is the suggestion for homosexual people? They should increase their chanting. They should not stay with other men. They should progress in Krishna consciousness. They should take shelter of Panchanga Bhakti very seriously, specifically Namakirtan, Bhagavad Shravan, Mathuravas, Srimurti, Shraddhaya, Sevan. They should do these things very seriously. There are Christians who have reported that. Okay, first of all, there's a false propaganda that these are all genetic orientations. There's an idea that for whole life, homosexuality is imagined to be a lifelong condition. It's not like that. It is only a status, a current status, because there is evidence that people who have been homosexuals have, the people who have been heterosexuals have become homosexuals and given up that and become heterosexuals again. Or there is evidence that homosexuals have become heterosexuals also. Christians, they do report that through prayer and religious austerities, homosexuals have actually become heterosexuals. Why even in ISKCON, this Danavir Maharaj, he said that some of his disciples were homosexuals, and they just took to the intense form of Bhakti Yoga, and later they became heterosexual and they got married and they're peaceful with no more homosexuality. both Arjuna and Anantadeva appeared as Nara. Now, in Arjuna's body, Nara is present. That the Mahabharata says that, not the other way around. At least the wording is like that. Okay, anything else? Otherwise, we'll stop with that. 2.7 will be the start for the next. Okay. Panchakutara Vyashcha Kripasindu Bhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo
Vaishnava
Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namo